Hello and welcome to my how-to video. In this video I'll be interviewing 3 different people who will give you tips and advice on how to find your son or daughter the right driving instructor. We will start with Trevor, who is a driving instructor with over 15 years of experience. What can a new learner driver expect on their first lesson?
When they go on their first lesson, most people haven't driven at all before. What I normally do is take them to a car park, so they're way out of, they've got nobody around to get in the way of. And first thing we do is we show them what we call cockpit drill, which is getting all the car set up so they can sit in there comfortably and control the car themselves. And then we go through all the controls, so they know which buttons to push and so on. And then when we've done that, then I start getting them to drive around in a big open space, how to steer the car and control it and where to position the car, and then gradually get it so it's set up so as if they were driving on the road. If a pupil can pick it up as fairly quickly like that, I will then move them on to a quiet road and then start taking it from there.
What are the differences between company instructors like the AA and the BSM and independent instructors?
Well, you've got 3 big companies, as you say, AA, BSM, Red and so on. AA is slightly different to the others, that they only take on fully qualified instructors, whereas the others, some of the others actually take on learner instructors as well, so they actually haven't partly qualified, so they actually haven't even fully qualified. Okay, so parents, because if you're talking about parents actually being aware of what's going on, they could be being taught by somebody who's not actually even qualified and may one day never even qualify. So it does make a difference. Whereas an independent instructor has to have qualified, should have a full qualified licence, and is working for himself. So really, you normally find that the independent ones, because they have to run their own business, they have to be on top of everything, so they'd be better off with that. What people should look at is actually on the windscreen of the actual car, there'll be 2 licences. One will be a pinky red triangle, which means that the actual instructor is partly qualified. Okay. Once you've got that, you get your pink licence, but you're then allowed to teach and take money for that licence, from that pupil. But you are not fully qualified until you've passed the 3rd exam with the DSA. A fully qualified instructor will have a green, I think it's an octagon or certainly something like that, a pentagon thing, but it's a green licence on their windscreen, yeah? And that shows that they're fully qualified. If they haven't got anything in the windscreen, then somebody's actually teaching illegally. The minimum qualification is they must have been driving and passed their driving test and been driving for 4 years, and of course it must be at least 21 years old, so you can see that if you start at 17 you can't be until you're 21. Okay, so that's the minimum you could have. Of course there are a few people that are young that will do it, but you always gain your experience the longer you've been driving, and that's why more driving instructors are a bit more senior in their age.
What's the average pricing that a new learner should be expecting to pay at this current time?
Well, various prices, there are a lot of prices around. The bigger schools tend to charge initial amount, a higher amount, £24, £25, but then we'll offer discounts for block bookings, etc. And as we've mentioned before, that in certain cases you may be paying a lot of money. You think, well, I'm paying for a better tuition, but not always in those cases. Then of course, it goes right down to some people that are almost giving the lessons away to try and gain some business and go on from there. So the average is around about £20 mark at the moment.
We will now move on to Mel, who is a newly qualified driver but had some not so great experiences with her instructor. So how did your instructor deal with your first lesson nerves?
My instructor dealt with my first lesson nerves quite well. He took me around the block once, which I wasn't feeling too confident with at first, but I'm glad he did so because it helped me build up my confidence for my later lessons. I didn't really have a relationship with my driving instructor. It felt to me like he was just purely in it for the business terms of, you know, financial income. It didn't seem like he had much connection with his students.
Do you feel that you are ready to take a test when your instructor advised you to book your test?
Well, he advised me to book my test around December time, and I actually took my test in February, so that's a good few months difference. And he explained that to me a few times, that there's the big difference, that I'd covered everything I needed to cover, and that was just the rest of the time was just practicing time. So I didn't feel confident that I could drive, but I felt confident that I could trust him to help me practice everything I'd learned to the point where I could do my test.
At what point in time during your lessons did you start having problems with your instructor?
It was probably 2 months into my lessons, because it came up to the summer holidays and my instructor took around 2 weeks off for family time, which I found acceptable being the summer holidays. However, when his summer holidays had finished, he had too many students to find time to fit me in for a lesson. So I ended up going about a month and a half without a lesson, purely because he took on too many students and couldn't find the time to fit me in for a lesson. After, what was it, a month, 2 months without driving, I just didn't feel like I'd remember everything I was learnt, so I thought it would be like starting from fresh again. And when you consider the fact that it cost me £21 a lesson, to have to go back over everything I've learned and start again, that was just costing me more and more money, and I didn't feel confident at all. So I feel it lowered my confidence in myself, because I knew, because I'd gone so long without doing a lesson and I did forget everything that I was taught, it sort of made me think in my head, if I go so long without driving, I'm going to forget everything I've learned, and it just made me feel unconfident about being an independent driver.
And finally, we have Catherine. She is currently learning to drive and has some positive feedback on her instructor. So how did your instructor deal with your first lesson nerves?
Well, I drove like really early on in the lesson, like 15 minutes, but it took me somewhere like dead, no cars, so I could drive like really slowly, like my own pace, and he like just pulled me over a few times, took me through it. He told me like what I was going to do, like step by step. He pulled me over, did it again, and he did that for an hour. And
How does your instructor's teaching techniques help with your confidence?
well, my driving instructor's like really friendly, so very professional, and he's punctual, like always on time. He does like step by step. He takes me through it. He talks me through it like about 3 times before we actually do anything. And then when we drive, he puts me in position, like gets me to put my car in position, and he talks me through it again. And he do it about twice, me actually doing it while he's talking through it, and then I do it on my own, and then we kind of go on to do something else, really, and that's how I learn.
So how does having an instructor like yours help you with your confidence in passing your test?
He doesn't really pressurise me into doing anything, like do it at my own time, don't really rush things, and like take it really slowly. I think having a bad instructor wouldn't really want to make me go to lessons. Like if they wouldn't like turn up on time, if they rushed me, if they weren't like really like teach you in the same way as what my driving instructor does at the minute, I wouldn't really want to go, wouldn't be really interested in learning, and just like affect the way I'll do lessons and affect my overall confidence.
Well, there you go. I hope you found the 3 interviews helpful. Thank you for watching.